how do pros move faster than everyone else, especially when it comes to multifamily. I'm going to give you the secret on how they do it. And by the way, it's going to surprise you in two ways. Two ways. Way number one is how easy it is. How easy it is. Now, make sure you understand, I'm not saying it's easy to go from one level to the next at that kind of speed and generate that wealth. That's not what I'm saying necessarily. But what I'm going to be sharing with you conceptually is very easy, okay? And it's also, number two, simple in terms of understanding what it is. So I'm not going to be laying out this weird, crazy, formulaic approach based on what I've noticed, what I've seen, and what I've been exposed to over the last 3+ decades with men and women worth just a ton of money. And not only in terms of money, but physical, mental, spiritual, the whole package. Okay? What is it that they do to move faster than everyone else? Here's what they do. They ask one question. They ask one question before anything else. Before anything else. And before I give you that question, let me ask you what usually is the first question that investors, entrepreneurs, business owners ask when it comes time for them to execute. Okay, they've made a decision. They're going to now execute on, in our world, growing their multifamily empire, growing their multifamily portfolio, making their multifamily properties worth more, cash flow more. They've decided that's what they're going to do. And again, we're in the multifamily world space here, but it can be any other business that this would apply to. What's usually the first question that you think a multifamily investor, entrepreneur is going to ask when they decide that, hey, it's time to increase my wealth exponentially. I want to make these professional, fast-moving, next-level gains. What's usually the first question you think that they're going to ask themselves, or that you would ask yourself? Go ahead and in your mind's eye now, think about what that question would be. Here's what that question is with 99% of you. Here it is. Okay. What do I need to do? Question mark. All right, that's usually the first question. So whenever anyone asks themselves, how do I go from this level to the next level, especially financially? Okay, the first question they ask is, okay, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to do first to do that? What do I need to do second to do that? What do I need to do third to do that? That's usually how 99% of investors, including multifamily investors, that's usually the direction that they go. And here's what I found. That's the wrong direction. It's the wrong question. But Darren, what do you mean? Why is that the wrong question? I mean, you gotta at least start making a list of things you need to do, things you need to implement. You need to start working on that. Yeah, you would be right. At some point in time, you need to come up with that list. You're right. But there's one critical question you need to ask first that is foundational to this and makes this 1,000 times more powerful. And before I share that question with you, I'm going to tell you a story that's going to illustrate that question. Okay, so Gina and I are, a couple of weeks ago, we're up in northwest Iowa at a place that we own up there on a lake, and we decide we want to go out for dinner. Okay, small community. I mean, the community is maybe a couple thousand people, or maybe in or around living in this community. So we're up there, we're spending the weekend there on the lake, and we decide, you know what, let's go out for dinner. And we decide that there's this small steakhouse that's in town there that we haven't gone to yet. We've gone to quite a few of the other restaurants, but you know what? We've not made the trip yet to this steakhouse. So earlier in the day, we're talking, what do you want to do? And I said, you know what? Let's go there. Okay, we've not been there. I've heard good things about it. Let's do it. What do you think? Okay, so we decide that's what we're going to do. So all day in our minds, we're thinking, okay, tonight we're going to go to the steakhouse and we're going to do this before, we're going to do this after. So this is kind of like in play. Okay. So the time arrives for us to go to the steakhouse. So, we're looking good. We're looking crisp. We've done everything. We've cleaned up well. Okay, we've cleaned up well. And so we're on our way. We pull into the parking lot. Had a kind of a tough time finding a place to park, but no trouble. It's a little bit before 7 p.m. and, it shouldn't be too bad. So, we find a place to park. We pull in there and, walk up to the, we open the door. We walk up to the server there at the, at the maitre d' there at the counter. And, Gina says, yeah, there's two of us, please. And she says, well, you're in for about an hour and 15-minute wait. Like, what? She said, oh, do you have a reservation? We said, well, no, we don't have a reservation. She said, well, if you don't have a reservation, then it's going to be at least an hour. And she said, probably an hour and 15-minute wait. And we're like, whoa, are you kidding me? We don't want to wait around for an hour and 15 minutes. So we're like, you know what? We look at each other and all of a sudden we go from this to, oh, great. We're looking at each other and we, basically told each other, looking at each other, no, we're not waiting. So we told the young lady, thank you very much. Sorry, but we're just going to leave and be on our way. So of course we walk out of there. We're kind of, oh, well, we got to wait an hour. Why in the heck would we have to wait an hour? Why would you need a reservation? And so we're kind of like grumbling between us because we were really looking forward to going into this restaurant. Okay. And so we're like, I don't get how can this be? We're in small town. Okay. There's hardly anybody living in town here, but we need a reservation. So, we go ahead and by the way, long story short, we leave and find a good place to go and everything worked out fine. But I got to thinking about that restaurant. I got to thinking about that. And I got to thinking, I wonder why they don't have any kind of advertising. Because when we got back to the house, I said to Gina, hey, how would we have made a reservation? She said, well, we would have called. I said, well, what about online? Do they have a place online where you can make a reservation? Maybe for next time. And she said, well, let me check. So she opens up her phone. She looks, she said, no, there's no place to make a reservation online. And we thought, well, that's kind of weird. Usually you can at least make a reservation. And I said, okay, is there a number is there like a reservation number that you call? She's looking, she says, no, there's like a restaurant number, but there's no reservation number. I said, okay, well, is there any instructions, there that you're finding on their website about making a reservation? And she said, there's nothing on their website about making a reservation either. And I'm like, well, how in the hell do they expect people to make a reservation if they, A, don't have any information on their website about it, B, you can't make a reservation online through their website, or C, again, there's no direction. How do they expect people to make a reservation? Okay, I said, check out their website a little bit, see what else is there. She's looking at the website. She says, there's nothing else here. There's just one page, business name, a picture of the menu, and that's it. I said, wait a minute, time out. Let me see that. So she gives me her phone and I'm looking at it. And she was right. All there was for this business was a website with the name of the restaurant on the top, a picture of the menu, and the prices, just a literal picture of the menu. That's it. No other information other than they did have their address on there. That was it. That's all. And then it hit me. It hit me. I got it. I understood. And it gets back to the secret of what the question needs to be and the power that professionals use to move faster than everyone else. I know you're like, okay, Darren, spit it out. Come on, dude. I mean, this has been a long story. Spit out what the secret is. Let me tell you what I learned from this restaurant, and I'm going to tell you exactly what the secret is. You're going to absolutely love it. Here it is. What did this restaurant have when we showed up? A bunch of customers. They had a full restaurant. They had people waiting in line when we got there. We would have had to wait over an hour. Okay? Why? It's because of what they do not have to do. I'm going to tell you again, what they do not have to do. What they did not have to do. Okay, so what do most restaurants have to do or think they have to do? Everything I said. Full page website, 7 pages, pictures of all their food, the staff, reservation number, reservation line, reservation email, a history of the business, going back how far, you get it, etc., etc. Okay? Did this restaurant have to do that? No, they didn't. Did they have to have a reservation line? No. Did they have to have a 7-page website? No. As a matter of fact, did they have to have anything other than their business location in order to be a very profitable business? No. They didn't have to have any of that. Yet what do most entrepreneurs do? What do most business owners, investors do? They start by asking, what do I need to do? What do I have to do here? Well, I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do this. I got to do this. Guys, the secret is this. You start out not with what do I need to do, but what do I not need to do? What do I not need to do? So let's go back to this restaurant as our example. And I mentioned it before. Does the restaurant need to have full page ads all over Facebook in order to attract people to come into their restaurant? Do they have to be on Instagram constantly pumping out content? Does the restaurant have to have a podcast? Does the restaurant have to have, again, a full-blown 8-page website with bells and whistles, reservation line, staff taking reservations? You get my point. The restaurant didn't need any of that in order to be successful, in order to go to the next level fast, because they asked themselves, what do we not need to do? Well, all we need to do is have a location, have a sign, have good food, and wait. They'll come in. That's all we have to do. Now, you want to be careful that you don't get trapped in all you have to do, but what that translates into, guys, is they made a list of already, here's what we don't have to do, A, B, C, D. That's where you start. And that's where I discovered, that's when it hit me that the power that these super fast, next level moving at almost the speed of light investors go, because they ask themselves, what do we not need to do here? Let's start there. What is it that we've already got? What is it that we already know? What is it that we already have in place foundationally that we know, that we already do, that we already have, that we don't have to do? Right? What do most people do? What do we have to do? Okay, pretty soon you've got a list of 28 things that you think you have to do. How long does it take to go through and implement those 28 things? How about forever? Forever. Have you ever been down the road 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and you look back and you're like, why in the hell haven't I made any progress here? Why haven't I made any progress? Because you're not thinking about what you don't need to do. You're thinking about all of the things you think you need to do. Do you get the difference? It's a slight, small difference, even though they're really on the opposite ends of the spectrum here, right? But it's such a small difference. And that, my friend, is where I find the professional investors, especially in the multifamily space, operate out of. What do we not need to do to that property? What do we not need to do with our operational systems? What do we not need to do with our asset management? What do we not need to do with our financing? What do we not need to do with our syndication? What, you see what I'm saying? Instead of going down that list first and eliminating all of the things that you already don't need to do, you're not wasting too much time, effort, and energy on things you don't need to do. See what I'm saying? Let that sink in a minute, what you don't need to do. Because the main reason these guys move faster than you, it's not because they're a hell of a lot smarter. It's not because they're genius at anything. It's not because they're able to, gamble and win. And there's some of that involved in everything. But the main reason, guys, is because they make that list either mentally or physically or, digitally of what they're not going to or do not have to do. It's huge. It's huge that this is where you start. And so I find that every time I'm tackling some kind of investment problem, challenge, or opportunity, I always start with this first. Okay, here's what's in front of me. So for example, we're looking at 2 or 3 apartment communities that we'd love to pick up and own. Okay, well, as I'm looking through at these properties and going through the process of making decisions on how serious we're going to get, this is the first question I'm asking myself with every one of those properties. Okay, Darren, what do we not have to do with these properties? What can we not spend time, effort, and energy on? Boom. That's where I start. And then by doing that, that funnels in a fine, focused, and clear manner the things that I do have to do. And I find that I'm much more successful then. I spend much less time. I'm a hell of a lot more efficient and profitable by doing it that way. Yeah, so look, I know it sounds kind of obvious what I went over with you, but most investors start with, well, here's what do we need to do? Bill, you're in charge of this. Frank, you're in charge of that. Sally, you're in charge of that. Lori, you're in charge of that. And it's all do. Here's what you got to do. And everybody's doing. No, that's not where you start. You start with, what do we not have to do here? What is it that we don't have to spend Lori's time, Sally's time, Bill's time on? That's where you start. Here's what we don't have to do, guys. We already got this in place. Off the table. Now let's focus on what it is after we've done that, on what we do have to start working on. And guys, if you do this, you go through this exercise, you're going to find things get a heck of a lot simpler and a heck of a lot more profitable for you. And it took me, even though I was seeing this for decades and just kind of scratching my head and wondering, how are these guys doing it? What kind of processes are they going through? I thought they're, had all these charts and graphs and they've got all this like genius mind warp speed moving things. No, many times they just start with, okay, what do we not have to do here? What do we not have to do? Because there are a ton of things like that little restaurant in small town Iowa that they don't have to do that makes them probably one of the most powerful, profitable, successful restaurants probably in the state because of what they don't have to do. All right, look, I hope you got some good ideas out of this. You got some what I would call writer downers out of what I covered with you on this, how the pros, the professional investors, especially multifamily, move faster, those 1%ers, than everyone else on the Heartland Multifamily Show. Again, if you got some value out of what I talked about here, leave your comments. I'd like to have some dialogue with you just to get an idea, what you're thinking, and maybe you've got some comments for me regarding what we talked about. Would like to hear from you on that. And make sure you click that subscribe button if you got some value out of what we're talking about here. Okay, we'll see you. Take care. Make that decision on what not to do. All right, see you. Bye-bye. If you want to get your hands on more great multifamily real estate content, make sure you click here. If you want to invest passively in great multifamily real estate, make sure you click here.